Yeah, let me make one clarifying point and then tend to agree with you. For me, polarity is a function of the number of great powers in the system, right? And BRICS is not a great power. It's just like Europe. People talk about Europe like Europe is a political entity. It's not. There's no such thing as the state of Europe, United States
They
of
wanted
Europe.
to make that happen, but it's not happening.
Yeah, it didn't happen, right.
Yeah.
So you have multipolarity, okay. But what's happened here, and this is sort of consistent with where you were going in your conversation, or your comments on BRICS, is that the United States and the West more generally have driven the Russians and the Chinese together. They're like this. And of course, they're both in BRICS. The Indians, who don't want to get too close to the Americans or the West, have gotten very sympathetic to the Chinese and have a long history of good relations with Russia. So the Indians don't want to get too close to the Americans and the West, and therefore they are bonding with the Russians and the Chinese. And then you throw in countries like Iran, South Africa, we could go on and on. There are all sorts of countries in the system that either loathe or distrust the West. And because the West, especially the United States, is so powerful, and it's using economic sanctions against this country, that country, and every other country, right? These BRICS countries are coming together and forming a quite potent institution, which is aimed at the West. And this is what I think you're getting at when you talk about bipolarity. See, it's not bipolarity in the sense that you just have two great powers. Mm-hmm. It's bipolar in the intuitive sense that it's the West versus the rest.
Exactly.
Right?
The global majority.
Yeah, global majority. And as I was saying to you before, if you think of my discussion of what my experience is, talking to people in the West, talking to elites in the West versus talking to elites outside of the West. I go outside the West into these BRICS countries and, I have an audience with all sorts of people, including people at the very top. In the West, that's not the case. And this just gets at the fact that I'm thinking when I'm talking to you earlier in the conversation in terms of the West versus the rest.